Start this recording. Let me just make sure that works. All right. Good morning, everyone. As I said, this is the second in the Learning IronCAD webinar series, and I'm going to jump directly into it. So we've actually done one lesson that is available already, that is setting up the scene, the workspace, and I will review that just a little bit before I go into today's lesson, which is the drag and drop design, designing with shapes. And in a couple of weeks, I know we've got scheduled a streamlined sketching, and we'll make sure everyone is invited to that. Then we'll have lesson 4, the IntelliShape, and finally lesson 5. So today's lesson, as I say, is just going to be based on drag and drop. And so this is all about designing with shapes. And as you can see on the screen, we've got the, on the left-hand side, we have the IronCAD drag and drop shapes. And then on the right-hand side, you can see some of the things that we can actually make with those shapes. Before I get completely into this, I want to just show folks that this lesson is available online on the TechNet website. And there's a lot of good information here. And you don't mind me showing this, do you, Joe?
No.
Okay. So, and I will actually be going through, anyone who wants to can get on the TechNet website and look at these and go through all of this type. And I'll be going through this up above, but so I'm going to put it on another screen so you can actually just watch what I'm doing here. So we're going to show you drag and drop. Let me get right into the product. And here is IronCAD. If there are any questions, I would you can interrupt me, or of course write them in the chat window that you have, and we'll be glad to get to them either real time or afterwards. So here we have the first opening screen. And of course, I'm just simply going to go into a 3D scene because we're talking about designing with shapes today. And give that a moment to come up. Everything I'm going to do today, other than the PowerPoint, of course, will be live. And as we had talked about in the previous lesson, this is the scene that we've discussed. And quick, brief review for those who are new to IronCAD. This is the scene browser on this side, and there's lots of work that we'll do up here. What we're going to mostly be working on today, and I'm going to put a big arrow here. This is my big arrow. We're going to be working on this area, which is the drag and drop catalog. So we're going to be looking at that. And without any further ado, I'll get into that. I'm going to erase these drawings and get back to a normal pen mode. And let's just start out. So the very first thing that I want you to understand with IronCAD is that we think in 3D. We don't start with a sketch and then think in 2D. We think in 3D. So these shapes that are here, and I'm just going to pull some of those out onto the, I'm just using a left mouse button and dragging them. And as I do this, all I'm doing is selecting on the cylinder and just moving it into the screen and letting it go and dragging and dropping, moving the slot, dragging and dropping a sphere, you name it, any of these spin shapes. Now, what's interesting is I've dragged these and put them just into space. I'm not actually assembling them, but you know they've already marked them. This is part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5. And once I've put these into place, of course, I have the ability to make changes. And the changes are kind of interesting. I can click on these things and say, well, what might these changes be? Well, this one allows me, as you can see, just using these handles, I'm just simply able to get in here and look at this and make changes to this part just by dragging on these handles. And depending on where I click, it will allow me to make those particular changes and make something bigger, smaller, you name it. Now, those are positive shapes. There's also the ability to bring in negative shapes. And so what I can do is on this side, you'll notice I dragged out these positive shapes. On the other side, we have cuts or holes. And so, for example, if I'm just looking at this silly little slot, I can just come in here and say, well, you know what? I want you to come in here and just cut through that and give me a little hole. And see, there's a hole that I've just cut into that one. And it's kind of neat the way I'm picking on this, by the way, because what I'm doing is I'm watching how intuitive the system is. So when with the left mouse button, I pick up this cut cylinder, and now I'm hovering over this face. And as you can see, as I hover over different geometry, it gives me lots of information. So if I'm on this face, it's showing me, wow, there's 3 main points. If I touch this one, oh, that's the center of that face. Notice this. Oh, put another there. That's the center of that hole. So this is a really neat way of working because I can very quickly work with positive and negative shapes to create this geometry. But what we want to do today is, rather than just work with that, we'd like to come in and create a real shape. And so to do that, I'm going to come in and show you something really kind of neat, the way these are created. And we're going to start off, and I'll bring this so y'all can see it. We're going to use this drawing using the drag and drop shapes to create this little simple part. Okay, so we're going to turn this into reality. And the way I'm going to do that is I come in there. I don't really need any of these guys, so of course I can just say, go away. I just pick them in a box and say delete, or pick on it, just hit the delete button. Very simple kind of work. And what I want to do now is I'd like to just bring in and create that part, that drawing. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to say, all right, let's start off with the drawing. So I know it starts with a very simple rectangular shape like that, prismatic shape like this. And I'm going to do some simple and kind of advanced things, but I know how this works. So right on now, it shows me that part 6, because this is the 6th part I brought in. I know that this part is made up of a kind of a rectangular shape that's 4 by 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. Now, what I can do is when I click on it a second time, what it does is it drills down into the part and says, oh, Bobby, I guess you want to make changes to this part. And it allows me to do the dragging of the shape. Now, there's many ways of doing this. I'm going to say this one, I know it happens to be 4, just like that. So it's 4 inches. But if I don't want to go through each one of these and, do this kind of, I just want to do them all at once. Here's a neat trick. I'm just going to right click on this handle and say, I know there's a side box here. So it says, oh, the length is 4. The width is 1.5, and the other width, the height, is also 1.5. And that quickly I can do them all at once. So I've got a rectangular shape that is 4 inches long by 1.5. Now, here's a neat trick too. On the properties menu over here, down on the scene browser, I can do things like, I can look at this and say, well, do I really want to see the dimensions as I work? Why not? I'll turn them on. This is something that we did in last week's class. So there are the actual dimensions. So as I'm working, I can see the actual size box dimensions and work that way as well. I'm going to leave that alone now. And so you can know what we're going to make. Here's a little advanced feature for users that are watching. I'm going to drill down once more out of this IntelliShape into the actual face of the part. And I'm going to do a little trick here. I'm just going to say, I want to paint that. I'm going to paint it a different color. Well, I don't actually want to paint it a color. I'm going to put an image directly on that face because I'm kind of lazy and I just want to show you all that I can do this. I'm going to go grab a picture, and the picture happens to be the file that Joe created. And I'm just going to say, place that directly, naturally on that face. And you can see now I've placed the actual silly drawing only because I want the drawing there so I can reference the drawing as we're working. And I'm just doing this for my own fun so I don't have to look on the screen above me. I'm kind of lazy. So what do I want to do here? Well, I need to make this part, which means I need to make the rounds. So let me look at this part and let me just pick on this and see what can I do with a line. By the way, I kept clicking, and I want you all to know how I did that. So I clicked on the part once. That brings me to the part level. I clicked on it again, which brings me to that IntelliShape that lets me make my changes. If I click on it a third time in a specific location, It drilled down into the actual geometry that I'm pointing at. And when I do that, it's really neat because I can right click and it says, oh, what do you want to do? And with a line, there's only three real things I can do. I can blend it, chamfer it, or extract the edge. Well, I want to blend it. And it says how much, well, I want this to be 0.75, right? So this is the, first good. And well, I also want to be able to do this one. And if I look over here on my drawing, it shows me it's rounded here in the front. So I'm going to go to the front and in the same time come right here and say, do that one too. And this one, so in one command, oops, that last one wasn't quite right. I picked the whole face, by the way. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm not going to undo the command. I'm just going to come in here and say, no, that wasn't a good selection. I only want, not the face, I just want that edge. So that's really kind of neat. So that's all I want to do. Go ahead, do that for me. Done. So it's done the back. So we're making this shape. No real hard work yet. Something I want to point out. You'll notice that I don't have to go searching for tools up here in the top menu bar. I'm not going to be looking for assembly modeling or feature modeling. It's all right in front of me on the screen as I work. So now I notice this little part has a cutout right here from, going through the front. So I'm going to use this drag and drop design. Watch this. And you remember before I showed you that when I touch certain parts of a line or a face, it gives me, I'm going to come in here and I want to do a cut extrude. Do I want to do it up here? No. I want to do it right in the middle there. And it's now placed that right on the front. So I know from my drawing, it's a 1/2 inch thick. Now I've placed it equidistant in the center, so I need to, instead of dragging it from one end, I'm going to use this special little tool here to say when I drag, I want this to be equidistant. So you can see what's happening. I want, yes? Hello? Question?
No, I was talking to somebody here.
No problem. Okay, so you'll notice that I put that 1/2 right into position, but now I don't want it to cut over the outside. I want it to match the side. So what I can do is I can drag like this, but if I hold the shift key down, it finds geometry. So as I'm dragging with the left, I'm saying, find this line. Now, this is really neat. The front, I don't want it to extend I want it to be right there, right in the front. Why did I do that? Because if I look at my drawing, it shows me that from the center of that hole, it's 1.6 back here plus 0.75. So well, what do? I want to say this location, this back face, is going to be a certain distance from a point. Well, what is it? What point? Well, how about the front of the part? There's the front of the part. What's the distance that you want to be from the front of the part? 1.6 plus 0.75. So I'm putting the actual equation directly in here and going, do it. It moves it over to 2.35. And then I found that show, I think you might need to, somebody needs to, let me see if I can mute everybody. There we go, no problem. So I've done that. I've got this part of the part done, and now I need to add these holes. Really interesting idea to add the holes. It's really kind of simple. So I've got a 0.75 hole right here on the top of my part. So what do? Go over here and use a cylinder, cut cylinder. Where does it go? Well, I want it to be kind of automatic. So I just find this point and I drop it. Boy, that's too big. Make this 0.75. Enter. Sorry, 0.75. So there I've got that hole. But you all know an interesting idea. You all know this hasn't come all the way through, as you can see. And by the way, I don't want to see those. I don't want to see the shape, those size box dimensions anymore. So I'll just turn them off. Now, everyone knows that I can drag this all the way through the part, but what if I want to add my own intelligence to this shape? Remember, this is drag and drop design. So, well, remember the right mouse button? I don't know how deep it's, I'm just going to go inside this part and say, um, from the front end of this, how far do I need to go? Well, at the moment, it's asking me for a distance. But I can say, well, I don't know the distance. I forget. I forget how big the part is, but I need to go all the way through the part. So it will now automatically always drive this hole, no matter how wide this part becomes, that hole, watch this, that hole will automatically stretch. There's intelligence. No matter how wide I made this part, that hole will always stretch because I'm saying you have to go all the way through the part. Let's do the front of this little guy. And by the way, for anyone worried about, see these little jagged edges here? It kind of looks like it's jagged where that's supposed to be a hole. That's just for rendering. So I'm going to come in here and show you a little trick. You know, I can come into the part and say, instead of having a surface smoothness of only 30 pixels, I'm going to just up it to 100 right here. It's like, go on. It just, and this is just advanced, but it's just, it looks prettier, if you will. It's always going to be a round hole. So I want to put in this top hole right here in the center of this that's represented by this. It's a 1/2 inch hole that goes all the way through both. How do I do that? Cut cylinder, find the center, and yep, fine. And how big is it? Well, it's saying, Bobby, you know, how wide is this hole? I don't know. I want it to be a 1/2 inch. Good. Should it go all the way through the part? Well, what are my choices? As you all know, I could say, you know, forward condition, go all the way through, and it automatically calculates. We did that last time. What if I only wanted to go through to the top face? I just come in here and say forward end condition. Go ahead and find extrude to whatever the next face is. How many faces do you want to intersect? Only one. Good. And now it just came through there. So a lot of intelligence is built into this. So as you use the product and get used to it, you can just make these shapes do whatever you want. Now, so we started out with this drawing, and I popped the drawing onto the top face so you could all see it. And I'd like to end up with a little drawing like this, so I just want to show you how quick it is. I know this is drag and drop designing, and we're not doing 2D work right now, but let's do a quick drawing of this thing and show you something else what drag and drop design really means. So for example, I could come in here and say, well, I didn't specify the material of this part. Then I'm going to come in and say, oh gosh, what do I want it to be? I need this to be 1020 cold drawn carbon steel. Drag that out, drop it onto the part. It says, hey, you've got some different surface styles here. Yeah, I got that silly drawing on top, but I don't want it anymore. I don't need it. Make this part cold roll, 1020. Now, what has that done for me? Well, let's look at it. The part properties are here, and it says this is called part number 6, or I could say drag and drop 1. That's the name but what about the material over here? Oh, there it is. There's the carbon steel 1020 cold, and there's the mass density. There's the calculated mass per pound, 1.634 per pound. Good, great. That's what I wanted to do. And how would I make a simple drawing of this? Well, let's save it. Drag and drop on, go ahead, thank you. And a real simple drawing. Just come in, give me a little drawing here, and what's it gonna ask me for? Well, there's the front. I want all of these views. And you know what? Yeah, just give me a 1:1 scale, good enough. And so as it's working, it will lay out all of these. Here we go, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got my 4 views on the screen. This particular view, if you don't mind, I'd like that to show me the part. That's excellent. And, you know, I hope I don't get in trouble with my friend Joe. This this is his lesson, but I'm going to add one little thing to this for folks that need to do this. In the 2D world, I would like to add a bill of material to this part. It's just this is manually how I do it. There's only one part on this table, and I'd like to know how much that part weighs because I need to order material. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to say, well, it tells me, and by the way, this is just like Excel. You can do anything, drag these columns, the part name. No, I don't want the part number. Don't need it. Instead of the part number, I want to know what the material is. Okay, good. So move this over, make it big again. Update, please. There you can see, so that's what I wanted it to be. And let's insert a quick column. I'm just playing, folks. I'm just having fun with it. What's the mass? How much is this silly thing going to weigh? There you go. It's based on the size, it's 1.634. Excellent. Go ahead, put that out. Now I've got that out of my drawing. Oh, wait a second. Customer tells me that I need to edit this part because they've decided we've got so much money. We're going to start delivering our parts instead of in steel. I'm going to make this out of gold. Watch it. Drag and drop designing. Pop it in there. And I've now changed, I haven't changed any of the dimensions. All I've changed is the material. Let's go back to the drawing. And it comes back and said, I don't care. You've changed something. Do you want me to change the views? Yeah, go ahead. And I want you to notice down here, the part mass was 1.634 pounds. Now it's updated. All of the drawings have updated as well. And we've now got 4 pounds of gold. This is a really expensive part. All right. So in the few moments that we've been playing with this, we've been able to create a new part, turn it into gold. And by the way, everything can be edited here. There's nothing that we can't do. So if I came back in here and said, yeah, give me a smart dimension, I want to know what, say, this hole is. And of course, that's 0.75 diameter. How about this line? How big is that? Just pick on it, 1.5. And on and on and on. Any of these things that I can come in here, make changes, the diameters get changed, radii, you name it, overall dimension. Anything that I work on, anything that I pick, I can now. Hey Joe, oh, there you go. By the way, if you don't know which dimension you want, whether it's 0.75 or the actual distance between those or the horizontal, I'm hitting tab. And this is the smart dimension that's giving me that. So really quick. And then again, anything that's changed here, I have the full ability to come back and say, no, I want this one to be a 1-inch hole instead. We want to do that as soon as you go back into the drawing. Not only does it update all of the different things you've got going here, the 1-inch, the weight's changed because, of course, we use less gold. So back and forth, that's kind of fun. Let's go into the next part of the lesson. And for all of those that are watching, these lessons are available online. They're on the TechNet website. And so I'm really using this to just go ahead. That gives you step-by-step instructions to go through this. So the next one we're going to work on is this one. And just kind of, the reason I like doing this is a drag and drop that gives me not 1 parts, but 2 parts. So we're going to make our first very, very simple assembly. Let me show you another trick that I'd like to show you all. What's the trick I'm going to show you? Here's the next trick. Give me, please, a new scene. So we're going to be working in a new scene with, our starter catalog. Nothing's here. We're going to make that part. I've forgotten what the drawing is, and maybe you don't have 2 screens, so I'm going to show you another cute trick. Instead of going to be putting this on a face, I'm going to say the background, which is currently gray, I want to change the background and give it a 2D texture that is actually going to be an image. And what's the image? The image is this drawing. And go ahead. And now I've put the drawing on my background. So here's some really interesting, simple things to do. Watch the next step that I do. I'm going to come in and wait a second. You made this 1 millimeter. So I want you all to see, I'm going to come right while I'm working, right down here. You'll notice it's saying inches, so we're in inches. No, I don't want to be in inches. Let's get rid of all those drawings. And what do I want to do? I want this to be millimeters, so I'm going to just click on the units, not inches, centimeters, feet, inches, meters, millimeters. We're going to, that's what the drawing's in. And how do I create? The first part we're going to create is this U shape. So same thing as we did before. You ready for this? This is really fun. I'm going to grab this and I'm going to say, bring it in. Now I'm just dropping it in front of this, by the way, and I can see, all right, this is 47 high, you know, by let me see, 28 wide, 30 wide. So here, ready for this? Here we go. Hit the IntelliShape, right click on one of these handles and just say edit the size box. I don't want to do one at the, I'm just going to say, okay, the length is 30. I'm just taking it off the drawing. The width, so 30 is 28. I see that. And the height that I just looked at is 47. In one fell swoop, there you go. There's the shape that we're looking at. Now, I notice that it has rounds going this way, you know, because there are the rounds this way, and there's rounds on the top this way. Well, watch this really, really clever way of working. I'm going to say blend this. I want to blend this, and I want to make that, what did we say that was? That's a 10 mil. Okay, so there's a 10. Oh, I'd love to introduce a really neat feature for my advanced users. You notice that I can't see the lines back here? Well, if you click on a part at any time and hit Control E, it will automatically show you those back lines. And it's kind of neat for doing a lot of filleting on complex parts, because you can just put the part here and say, okay, I want to put one fillet here that's 10. Notice what I'm doing now. I'm picking through the part on this side. Kind of neat, right? And then watch this. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say this edge. Oh, no, I don't want that to be 10. In the same command, I just change it. I want that to be 8. Okay, so it's not supposed to be 10, it's supposed to be 8. And this one over here is also 8. So I used different on the bottom, and then I'm done. That's kind of neat. And by the way, I'm going to turn off those edges. And watch this next part, because it's really as cool can be. I'm looking at this shape over here, and watch this. I want to shell this part, which means I want to remove this face, this face, this face. I want to open this up, but leave a 5 millimeter wall thickness. And in one click, I've now created this exact part. Really, really kind of cool, as you can see that. And if I don't want to mess with materials right now, I just want to, you know, have a different color, you just right click on the part, Smart Paint, and this is where you can, you know, you choose whatever you want. I'm going to get this gray color, or, you know, something darker, or it really doesn't matter to me there, whatever color you want to work in. So we finished our first part. Now, how do we get the second? Oh, and I also noticed something else. I didn't notice where that was. Oh, that's in the middle. And how far down is that? I noticed whoever made this drawing, oh, it's 45 from that location. Well, got to put that in. So I need to, before I can locate this hole, I have to put in the assembly. So let's do that. Well, where's the next part? For those of you who know this product, they know that if I use the left mouse button, and I want to show you all this, if I use the left mouse button and say I just drag this sphere onto the part and make it small, little small sphere like this, see that little tiny sphere? When I dragged it and plopped it onto this, what it will automatically do, because I dropped it onto that part, it has said, well, that sphere must be part of this. So I added it, it created, and the same one. I don't want to do that. I don't want to have it as part of this. I want a new part. I'm hitting undo, by the way, unlimited undo and redo. So how are we going to do that? Because I know if I drag a part out here and touch this, it'll add it to it. Well, in IronCAD, anytime you're uncertain, use the right mouse button, because now watch this. Take this slot feature and drop it there, but I used the right mouse button, so it gives me a menu. And that's really cool. So what do I want to do? Do I want to drop it as an intelligent feature on this part, which is the default? No. I want this to be a part. Watch this. Okay, drop it as a part. Good. Oh, I see. Now I've got part 1 and part 2. Keep it clear for me. Watch this. Click on this and say, this is my U shape. I can change it right here. What about this one? Click on it again. This is my slot shape. So I'm naming it right here. I don't have to go into the part properties. And now, how long is this? Well, I know it's only 6.3 wide, so I'm going to say, okay, this is 6.3. Okay, great. And I don't really know how long it's supposed to be. It's 54 plus 8 times 2. Well, watch this. So 54 plus 8 times 2. So that's kind of neat too. As I'm working, I immediately can enter this kind of thing into place. Now, what's another thing I want to do? Well, why don't I just, while I'm working on this, why don't I just put in those holes? Point. All right, so here we go. Put one right here. And how big is that? Well, it's actually at 8 right now, but change it. No, I want it to be 8 mil. Good enough. There's one. And I want to put another one in, so it'll default to that 8. Now I've finished this shape. So I've got my slot shape, U shape, but I don't need it here. What I see is that I need the center, the top center of this shape right here. I need this point located right at the top of this point. And for that, I can introduce the triball, which is it really is a cool thing, and I'm going to show it to you now. The triball is how we move parts around. So I had said this triball, which is now located at the bottom of the slot, I don't want it there. I want the triball, and we have there's a number of webinars, by the way, on the triball that are available. But so I want to unlock the triball, so I'm going to hit the space bar. And as I said, I want this point, I want to change it, and I want to go where? Right there. Now lock it by hitting the space bar again. Now it's locked. Now I'm going to move everything. I want to move this part from here to a point located on this part right there. And so now, without having to look up commands, do this, that, and the other thing, I've got this part located exactly where I want it. And that's kind of neat. That lets me do one more quick thing. So that's located in space. And notice what we didn't have to do. We didn't have to go into an assembly. In fact, I've got a U shape, a slot shape, and I'm going to take my background. Well, wait for a second, leave it there. How can I create an assembly? Because at the moment, they're two separate parts. I want them all to be in one assembly. Well, left click, drag, and it's picked them both up. Right click, assemble. We now have assembly 1. So this is one assembly that could be moved around anywhere on the screen and put into a part. So this is kind of neat. Now, so I've made my first part, I've made my second part. You're seeing drag and drop at its best. Before I go any further, I like all the work that I've done. And one of the most powerful things about this product is drag and drop, and the fact that as I've made these, the more geometry I create, the smarter the system can become. I've now created a new catalog. And what I'm going to do is jump into the first part that we made right here. There's that gold part. What did I call that? Drag and drop 1. There's our drag and drop 1. And I'm going to say, I want to just take this part and drag it now into my catalog. I'm going to go into my scene 2, which is the second one. Watch this. This is really, really neat. I'm going to take this. I'm going to click once and drag the whole thing. There's my assembly. I'm going to click twice and get the U shape, and click twice and get the slot shape. So all of the work that we've done now, if I come back, I'm going to save this and say this is from my drag and drag and drop. So I got to drag and drop this, and now my new menu bar called drag and drop. At any time I come into a new scene, and I'm going to do it this way to show, because I want to show you that it's a completely new scene. And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say, well, show me something, the IronCAD blue with reflection. So I'm in an entirely new scene now. Everything that we've worked on, all of the work that we've done is now available to us. Oh, cool. So I've got my first part. And what if I want to take the slot shape and there's another slot shape. I want to add this one and I want to put this one. Or what if I want to go and get that original shape and work with that? And as you can see, that's the first one that we built today. We're now adding our own intelligence. And here's what's really neat. You go away. What's really neat about what we're doing is everything that existed in those original parts are still here. So I can come, even though these came out of the catalog, I can come and make any change I want. I could take this one and say, I want to move you over to this side here, a little further over. I might want to put two of these in, something like that, and move another one and pop it in here. But as you can see, we've added intelligence to the system. Now, I just wanted to show that to you. I'm not even going to save it. But what happens to this? I have one more thing that's important for me to show you. Let me just say, change the background here. Go back to just a simple color. I don't need that drawing anymore. There's one thing that I looked at in the starter catalog that I think is really important for you all to understand. What if I needed to have a hole that goes all the way through this part but comes into this part as well? As you know, when I do a cut cylinder and just drag a cut cylinder like this, that cut cylinder will only do work on the top part because it only belongs to that top part. So you see what just happened, right? That cylinder that I say maybe 5 mil, there's a 5, it's not affecting this other part because it's not part of it. It belongs, and it knew this. It knew that that the first thing we did was a block. The second thing we did were the blends. The third thing we did was to shell. The fourth thing we did was to do a cut cylinder of this part. It doesn't affect this one. Well, let's delete that by hitting the delete key and show you something else really cool. I want to automatically now use this as a different type of animal. I'm going to use the right mouse button, come in here, find that location and drop. Oh, Bobby, what do you want to do? Do you want an IntelliShape feature? No, because that only acts on this part. Do you want a new part? No, that's silly because it's a cut. Oh, and what's an assembly feature? An assembly feature works on what is the scope on all of these things. So work on everything. And that's a little big. That's a very big shape. So hang on, let me grab that. That cylinder was way too big. Not 40 mil, make it 5. What did that do? That came through and it dropped this cylinder all the way through. And if I wanted to, it has now created this through this part. And if you'll notice, if I say, just select on this and hide the unselecting, it cut into this as well. So I was able to use this for everything, show all. And that's very, very useful because now, depending on what I've got here, I can add multiple parts and drill through all of them. So now that I've done that and I've got my assembly and I'm real happy with it, I hit a quick save and I get to show you the very, very last thing that I'm going to do today. And that is, I just want to make a quick drawing of this. And so I'm going to ask it to do the following. I want it to do a drawing of my assembly and both of these parts individually. And this is the bulk drawing capability. So what we're doing is we're taking our 3D data and we're converting it to 2D data. And real quick, as you can see, so here we have, I'm going to move this into position. There we have a quick drawing. Oh, I noticed something. Gosh, my templates for drawing are in inch, but I'm working in millimeters, so I guess I'll just come up here and I don't know, where do I find my units somewhere? Here we go, under common, here's the units. This drawing is in inches. No, I want everything to be in millimeter on this drawing. Go ahead. I could have it either way, and now of course they're all switched. So you know the changes are done. And here's what's really kind of neat. You know, all of these drawings are done for me, plus the assembly. And as before, it's given me a quick little bill of material. So really a nice, neat way of working. And I don't, oh, here, I wanted to show you something. I do need to see the hidden edges here. And that the hidden edges, of course, give me the ability to see the holes that come all the way through. So I'm kind of stoked about this. The whole concept of what we are trying to show you today was a very simple example. I poured my coffee, but I didn't drink it. Pardon me. So a very simple example of how these shapes can be used to create really interesting geometry. And the idea is we can use drag and drop, we can use sketching, and we can use direct edit. And you know, something else that y'all need to know is that as I was working with these shapes, and it is something to be aware of, is that any shape that is dropped out of IronCAD, any shape that is dropped out of IronCAD, if I come in here, drop another shape just for fun, and I'm going to put it on this because I want to just create something really quick and dirty just to show you. Give me this. And I want this to be around the center. Just showing you all a quick idea. This one too come down here. What am I creating? Oh, I'm creating this little shape, but you know what? This right here, I want to look at that and say, what was that thing that I just added? Oh, I just dropped a block, but what was it created of? Oh, that block actually has a sketch. What does that mean? That means that if I really wanted to, I could come in here and say, well, come in here and change this sketch. Trim away this, trim away this. What does that do? Oh, I've now gone in and changed that shape that I put in here, and now this will automatically make the update here. And I can still have the ability to go back and say, make it bigger. Make it, you know, this, all of this is going to change as I change, and I've changed that underlying sketch. So there's some pretty interesting stuff that we've got available for you. There's lots of different ways of working with geometry. Finally, everything that I've talked about, there's a lot of webinars that are available that show you feature modeling, assembly design, cut and paste, direct edit, some really neat webinars. We are part of the IronCAD USA team. We have well over 255,000 users worldwide. We've been in this game for a long time, and an international reseller community. If there are any questions, I would be glad to answer them, but it has been my pleasure to show you, you know, the IronCAD drag and drop. I'll go right back to the beginning. The next one we're going to talk about is streamlined sketching, and I started to get into that a little bit. I don't see if there are any questions here. I'll wait for a moment. Do you see in the chat window if there's anybody that has? Do you have any questions? Did I miss anything there, Joe?
No, it looked very good, Bobby. Thanks a lot.
Okay, my pleasure. And thanks everybody for attending. It's really fun. As I say, in a couple of weeks, we'll do the streamlined sketching. We'll talk about IntelliShapes and finally integrated and direct edit modeling. So thank you very much for attending. It was a real pleasure, and look forward to seeing you all next time. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye-bye, Bobby.
Bye-bye.